Hey guys, how are you all doing? Welcome to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto had mythical powers and got harem, part 2. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Raydes. Link is in the description. Also subscribe if you enjoy the video. Let's start the story. It had been just over 7 weeks since Naruto had started his new and actual training while he slept, and his muscles had thankfully started adapting to all of the extra strain put on them from all of the workout they get during the night. He had never felt so good in his life. It was like everything was starting to fit where it once never did, and Naruto had even had a slight growth spurt. Naruto hung out with Hinata and Shino in his spare time and went on quite a few D-rank missions with Team 8, which would be perfect if Kiba wasn't there complaining all of the time, but worse, being a douche. Luckily, Naruto had quite the collection of clones, so he could make some extra cash without having to deal with all of Kiba's winning. Though, at least Naruto had been helping Hinata come out of her shell more, and now she didn't pass out anymore, or at least hadn't while near him. Though, Naruto had also completed a few D-rank missions with Team 10, but he had to admit, though Ino was a super hot blonde with incredible looking thighs and arse, she wasn't anywhere as near fanatical as Sakura in her Sasuke obsession. She could be a little too bitchy or bossy. Though, it was preferred over hanging out with Naruto's idiot team. However, the reason Naruto had been spending so much time with either Team 8 or Team 10 was because Team 7, his team, didn't do anything training like or any missions to earn a living, either for that matter. It started out with waiting hours in the morning for Kakashi to turn up. They did one D-ranked mission, and neither Naruto nor Sakura got paid, not that Sakura cared, and after that they got the rest of the day off. Naruto stopped turning up after a week of that, and none of his teammates, or his sensei, had sought him out, so he couldn't care less either. Naruto knew that Kakashi took Sasuke off to give him private lessons after their mission, not even taking Sakura with him. Though, Naruto was sure Sakura knew what was going on, she cared so little for her own training that it was near criminal with how weak she was. She was going to end up getting seriously injured or killed, or worse, because facing the truth was that Sasuke would likely never protect her, and Naruto was unsure whether he should care either, and cursed his kindness sometimes. Sakura was a liability to Team 7, but that was down to their sensei not caring about any of them, nor even Sasuke. At least Naruto had teams he could work with, other teams to hone some team working skills, and much needed relief from his moronic team. Heck, even Ino's team knew how to work together and train together, and even the bossy girl herself knew how important her teammates were to the team. It makes him feel sick just thinking about how spoiled Sasuke was that Naruto wouldn't be surprised to learn that villagers and Kakashi wiped his arse for him with their tongues. He had almost gotten Shino laughing when he suggested that. He just didn't get how these people had so little respect for themselves. Naruto couldn't understand all of the girls either, well most of them, their attraction to a moody, ungrateful, prick emo douche with the emotional range of a potato after it's been chewed up and pooped out by a fat woman before it's nibbled on by flies. Did Sasuke have anything worthwhile or redeeming about him? The only thing Naruto saw was a guy who would become a deadbeat father just because he needed to restart his clan out of some messed up obligation he felt he owed. Well, only if he lived that long. His arrogance may get him slaughtered. Though, there was that part of Naruto that knew that deep down, Sasuke wasn't a total familiar. He could be better if he at least stopped his lone avenger rubbish. Naruto just couldn't fathom why the girls wanted Sasuke. Why? It was pathetic. It made them seem desperate when they had no reason to be. Sasuke wasn't the only male in the village. They had nothing in common with him, and even if they did, they would never find out because Sasuke didn't give a damn about them enough to have a simple conversation. Anyway, aside from these things, Naruto had gotten comfortable occasionally when he was free hanging out at Tenten's shop chatting with her while she was the only one there. He was actually surprised at the customers that came in. Ninja didn't glare at him or anything, but then he realized that he didn't see one genius ninja or any of their weak worshippers enter the store. Naruto had been a little confused and must have spoken aloud as Tenten told him that her father refused to cater to people like them because he didn't believe they're worth his brother. It had been nice to realize that there were some cool people, be it very small in numbers. It was like the unheard ninja used Tenten's shop. Tenten had taken his hand with a cute understanding grin, as both of them had that in common. It was nice, he realized, knowing there were some ninja who wanted to become stronger without just quitting, because they had no belief that they could ever match these so-called geniuses. Tenten had been kind enough to teach him a few things about all sorts of weapons from swords and axes to throwing knives to bows and arrows. He was impressed with her tips and tidbits of assistance that his aim started to improve when it came to projectiles. She also helped him in palaces Kaiu couldn't when it came to wielding a sword. That's when Naruto saw it. It was an odd sword. It had a silver-colored blade with curved blade edges going into a straight tip and black and dark green faded tribal markings. The handle has a metallic black grip that seemed sectioned in two pieces with a dark green piece on the end that looked like it could fit his fingers. The sword wasn't overly long, and the whole sword was light as he picked it up. The only reason it took him so long to notice the beautiful weapon was because it wasn't on the shop floor, and he saw it while helping Tenten move a few boxes from out back to the shop floor full of freshly made new kunai and shuriken. Tenten just stood watching him with this amused grin on her face as he took some experimental swings with it. He didn't know why, but maybe it was just its odd design that garnered so much of his attention. It just seemed like more than his eyes and fingers could discern. Naruto wasn't much for weapons, except for kunai and shuriken, because they make up for his lack or previous lack of long-range techniques, but those techniques he knew took too much time at the moment and were more for finishing opponents or burning the world to the ground, metaphorically speaking of course. The blonde boy swished the sword from his right to left hand with ease, but it felt more comfortable in his left, so he figured its handle was made for the left hand, which was okay by him, as he had no real preference for a sword, as he was what was called ambidextrous, which meant he could use both hands equally, but even still, he had a preference with his right side, likely because right-handed people were more common than left. I think I want Naruto to mutter more to himself than his watching friend. It's so light and elegant and matches you, fine, but she said giggling as she moved over and wrapped her arms around him, blushing as he could feel her small chest against his back, but she shook off that thought as she took the handle with him and helped him feel the switches. He started as the sword swished open with a tense cord of black and railings of green on the inside and black out, and he realized that the green finger slots were there so that when this weapon was in its bow form, the archer could pull back without gloves to protect his fingers from the string cutting into them. "Whoa, now I have to have it," Naruto said as he smiled at Tenten as she pulled back and dug out a dark green flat triangular arrow holster from behind some boxes with some black markings and a black blade sheath under it hidden leaning out to the left. It housed 25 beautifully and powerfully made arrows with room for a lot more with green feather ends and black stems with dark silver crossheads. "Dad made it for me," she said as he swished it back to its sword form, surprised it fit so much extra in it without being bulky as she took it and slid it into its sheath. "But I'm not much for archery. It takes too long for me to fire on target, and in the ninja world, it would need way too much stealth, and that isn't my field," so he said we'll find someone for it. "I know you're quite the sneaky kid, Naruto-kun, so you should take it." "How much?" he asked as he took the gear and looked at the strap setup up but didn't put it on. "This is going to cost a lot. Can I set up a payment plan?" Tenten giggled as her soft brown eyes rolled. "It's a silly gift, Dad said it was up to me. It's one of his best ever made weapons. It's awesome, isn't it?" Naruto had to fight off potential tears as he was near squeezing the life out of her, not that she minded too much, as he kissed her cheeks each before giving her a quick kiss. He then yelled bye and his eternal thanks before running out of the shop, leaving her dazed, giddy, and happy as her heart pounded with a pleasant pain in her chest as he went home. He didn't want anyone to see his new weapon as schemes ran around his mind. He knew that he shouldn't go around showing off the bow blade. He had a plan for its use, and he was certain neither Tenten nor her dad would tell on him. They were very confidential people, plus Ten-chan liked him as more than just friends and wasn't a grass. Naruto shared his whole 82 apartment building with no one. It was built a while back as an attempt to get people off the streets and clean up the district a little, but after Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, died, the village council was quick to stop caring and cancelled the projects he set up. It was built over an existing apartment block that was near falling down, but it saved money doing that. The apartments were quite huge. His was the top floor to one corner and had 4 bedrooms, a lounge, a dining room, and large bathroom, a kitchen, and an extra toilet. Though, he knew some of the apartments only had 3 rooms and a few with just 2 and no second toilet and no dining room. Instead, the lounge was slightly larger, though to fit a dining table, and the kitchen was open plan with a lounge. However, his neighborhood was now a shithole even for the shithole district he lived in. It didn't matter to him though. He was given the whole place by the Hokage when he complained about the lack of company and said he can rent out the apartments if he wanted, which, nobody would rent rooms there even if he wasn't the landlord, so kind of a moot point at the time. The basement had always been huge with tall ceilings, and the building was quite strong and stable. It was just all the apartments, but there were wrecks. He walked around the huge cavernous warehouse of a basement and thought, as he had never thought about setting up any training area down there before, but now. He needed a private place to train while not in his mind. He has been down there plenty of times before, as it had some secret tunnels he found leading into the sewers, which lead him to or from every part of the city, even off-limit areas. He hadn't had the guts to sneak into off-limits areas before, even though he had found secret doors in and out of some of the older places, but he had never been confident enough in his skills then. Naruto knew that he could have any training ground he needed when he was asleep, but he needed to practice for real too, or at least start to, and it wouldn't hurt to have his own secret base. He was quite sure this basement wasn't on any blueprints. It took him a few years of exploring to find the way in. Yes, he smirked, this place was perfect. It took him a real-world week to set the place up with target boards, some makeshift exercise equipment, and some large location for a workshop, as he had finally stolen some books on these seals he heard about. He figured it wouldn't hurt to have some special arrows that blow up and whatever else his clones could get them to do while he slept at night. He practiced his bow blade in his dreams, but nothing was as perfect as in the real world. It had also been during this week that he tested his skill with shadow clones by sending them off on some higher tier ranked missions to try and up his bank balance a little more so that he could start fixing up apartments so that perhaps he could over time convince some people to rent from him to earn extra money. If Naruto wanted to help people in a world where money was just as important if not more so as strength, he realized he should try to make as much as he could, and there were no rules against him having work outside of his shinobi duties as long as it didn't conflict. He wouldn't have thought about that if not for Tenten working with her father and even Ino working in her family flower shop, so look these things up, as it was quite common for ninja to have extra jobs on the side during their downtime so that they could have some normalcy in their lives. It had been just over 3 weeks since Naruto got his new bow blade gift from Tenchan, hoping that he did start making some real money by renting out apartments. Then he could buy her something as a thank you, maybe take her out somewhere nice, and hope Hinata didn't get too jealous, as he would treat her too for being so nice to him. Naruto had made some secret hideaways for his weapons and books in his base, so knew he was getting better at building. He didn't even have to steal books for that, as the civilian bookshops nearby sold to anyone, as in this district, not many people read so they couldn't be picky. Though, the old man and woman that owned and ran the shop with their granddaughter hadn't ever been hostile to him, so he got all his books on building from them, and they were happy for the business. However, he was just getting away from working on his building while leaving a shed load of clones to get on with whatever when he heard someone call his name. He looked over to see Ino rushing over from a little way off, and he waited admiring her looks from blonde hair to blue eyes and pretty lips and incredible thighs in black bicycle shorts. She had filled out nicely since leaving the academy, and it was nice to see she was eating properly and not starving herself to look good for that prick Sasuke, and actually looked so much better and possibly happier. "Naruto, there you are," she said with a sigh as she pulled to a stop to catch her breath. "I thought I would have to go to your apartment or something," she said, shuddering. "The Hokage gave me your address, but I wanted to check other places first. I don't know how you can live in such a dodgy area." Naruto chuckled while smiling at her with a smile she found annoying because it was so cute, even though she didn't want to even think that. "We've got a C-rank mission," she said. "We've got to find a special herb that grows out in the mountainous areas due west for the hospital," she continued as he walked towards the Hokage tower with her. "So, they just sent you out looking for me?" he asked in surprise. She just rolled her eyes and grabbed his right arm, pulling him along faster and holding it tight to her body. "No, I volunteered," she replied sadly. Both of the boys and sensei had things to pack. "I can't believe for once I'm the only one ready straightway. Oh, do you have everything on you?" "Yeah, I've taken to carrying a few scrolls with stuff I'll need with me," he agreed while she nodded in appreciation as she dragged him on. Even though he was keeping up perfectly fine by himself, she had discovered he had quite the disappearing talent and didn't want to lose him now she had found him. "Good, I want to get this done quick and simple," she said as she led him into the Hokage tower and up to the old man's floor while trying to ignore how powerful his arm felt against her. However, Naruto was surprised to see the furious secretary as he reached the top floor with Ino. She had obviously not died and somehow kept her job even though she attacked a fellow ninja. Naruto had to wonder how these morons managed it. He would have to deal with that when he got some more free time. "Hey you, brat. What do you think?" the secretary screamed as Ino had blinked only to see the woman getting lobbed out of the window with such nonchalant ease and looking like Naruto had replaced himself with a stapler. Ino had no idea how Naruto managed that but shrugged. She hated that stupid bitch as much as everyone else did. She shouldn't attack the Hokage's guests like that, and maybe if she didn't die, she would have learned her lesson. Naruto gave into a sheepish grin as she put down the stapler and shrugged as he gave her a look. "That's surprisingly the second time I've thrown her out of the window," he said sheepishly while she looked surprised before giving him a smile. "Well, watch this," he said as he pressed the button on the intercom. "Hokage-sama," he imitated the woman. "Uzumaki-san and Yamanaka-san are here to see you." "Well, okay, I sent them in," the Hokage's voice replied, sounding confused. Ino couldn't help but giggle. "You could get a gig as an impersonator, but she's never that polite, the ill-mannered bitch." she said, as he led her in where her other two teammates had returned with their sensei, Asuma, the Hokage's son. Naruto walked up to Asuma and pulled a cigarette from his mouth and threw it out of an open window glaring. I told you that is a filthy habit, and if you want to die slowly go get yourself captured in rock country, he said before finishing off with a glare at the Hokage as he was quickly putting out his pipe trying to look innocent as Naruto had gotten on an anti-smoking campaign. Ino couldn't help but agree. If they wanted to ruin their lungs, they could at least have the decency to smoke outside so they didn't ruin everyone else's lungs with secondhand smoke. She didn't want to die a slow and painful death if she could help it. She was already a ninja, which was dangerous enough. Imagine living to retirement and dying of lung cancer or something, that would blow big time. Well, Naruto-kun, I'm glad Ino-chan found you, the Hokage said with a smile as he was already missing his pipe. But did you throw my secretary out of the window again? Naruto shrugged sheepishly. Yeah, but maybe you should send her back, she isn't a very good one, and even worse ninja. I think she's defective or something like that. Yes, well Sarutobi took a deep breath and smiled. I'll assume Ino has informed you of your mission. He asked, and Naruto nodded, smiling in agreement. Well then, since you're all ready, I think you should probably get on your way, okay? Right, you four, Asuma said, getting their attention as he pulled out a new cigarette but quickly spoke up as Naruto gave him a look and Ino glared. I'll wait until I'm outside, he said, sad that Ino agreed with Naruto's no smoking inside kick. Well, anyway, I'll give you all half an hour to finish up any last minute whatever, and we'll meet at the west gate in 40 minutes. Asuma left with Choji and Shikamaru, their teammates out of the door with Ino and Naruto bringing up the rear. They had got ahead of the two blondes as they didn't much care to hurry as Westgate wasn't very far from the Hokage tower and didn't have anywhere they needed to be when Naruto had to dodge a fist. Naruto. The pink-haired Sakura roared out in anger as she spotted him. Ino had stopped to watch, surprised by the pink-haired girl's anger as she struck again only for Naruto to sidestep looking baffled. Why haven't you been turning up to team meetings? She demanded getting frustrated as he effortlessly moved from another punch. Perhaps, because you're violent, Ino interrupted as Naruto pushed aside a couple of punches, but Sakura hadn't noticed as she looked over at her light blonde-haired ex-best friend as she hadn't noticed her. Oh my god, Ino, you're that desperate? Sakura demanded in shock. You're hanging around with Naruto Baka. Ino just glared at her in return. Hey, what's that supposed to mean, forehead girl? I've actually gotten to know him a bit when he's taken missions with my team. He's quite cool company actually. Sakura snorted while Naruto watched, surprised that Ino had stood up for him. Yeah, right, what next? You're going to start the Dead Last's fan club because if you do it will only have you in it. He couldn't help to compare with Sasuke-kun. She added the last smugly. Ino looked unsure about how she could answer that before she just settled for a heated look that could melt unmeltable ice. You know what, Sakura, I don't give a crap what you think because you're an idiot. Naruto may have been dead last at the academy, but he's pretty cool and actually helps out, what about you? If you're so awesome, how come you can't even hit him? She asked smugly and amused. I can beat the dead last without effort. She retorted heatedly as she kept swinging punch after punch at him, only for him to slide out of the way at the last second. Stay still you moron. She demanded, and he obeyed only to catch her latest punch in his left hand, crushing it, she cried out as she fell to her knees in pain. He then let go with a pitying smile. Back off Sakura, you couldn't hope to beat me, he said with a shrug. Well, anyway, Team 10, and I have a mission so Ino, and I can't argue with you any longer, so later, he said, as he led Ino away, while Sakura stayed put on the floor, fuming, and rubbing her sore hand. That was kind of when Ino began, but trailed off. If I ever become a loon like that you would tell me, right? Yeah, and I so love girl anger, he replied with a winning smile, while she had the decency to blush. Sorry Ino, but during the academy you made yourself look like a total fool with your fangirlism. She grimaced as she heard his honesty and knew that out of all the boys at the academy that he was the only one who would tell her the truth about that. Sorry if I was in pain, she said impishly. I've changed since then, right? She asked hopefully. Naruto smiled at her widely and she was surprised when he took her hand. Hey, don't worry, the past is important I guess because it makes us learn from it and we can always change our future and become better for it. When did you become so smart? She asked as she was surprised her own hand closed in his without any hesitation. He was so kind and honest, he was so different to how she always thought, but before she had never gotten to know him. Hey, I've always been smart, he said laughingly. It's just you accepted everyone else's opinion of me before we even met, so it's all about belief rather than truth. I'm sorry, she replied feeling guilty. I didn't mean to. Hey, it's okay, come on, Naruto said with a grin as he gripped her soft hand tighter. let's hurry, Sakura delayed us, we'll be late, he said with a grin while she smiled and allowed him to drag her on. Naruto and Team 10 had been walking for several hours when they had stopped to set up camp. Okay, let's see now, Asuma said as he looked at the genin. I'll feel a little better now with 4 of you. It's better that you learn, watch in teams of 2 to start, rather than having 3, than me, this way we'll get a better sleep. So Ino and Naruto will be one team and Choji and Shikamaru another, well I'll be by myself. We'll only need to set up 2 tents this way. You mean 3? Ino asked, looking baffled. They had only had a couple of C-rank missions before and none of Team 10 had been out overnight. So, this would be her first night camping. No, Asuma replied while rolling his eyes as he stood a slight further distance as he had a cigarette in his mouth and he already lost 2 when he got too close to Naruto and Ino. The tents are all 2 persons, so you should stay in with your guard duty teammate so you don't disturb anyone or have an extra tent up not being used. We have to think logically about how we do this and sensibly, understand? He asked and she nodded slowly. I chose Naruto for your teammate because I've noticed you're getting along best, but if I was wrong. No, I'm fine staying with Naruto, Ino pouted. But I would rather my own tent, she said, as she turned to the boy in question, with her mouth hanging open and surprised to see a nice-looking black tent set up and ready, as well as a fire pit, while Naruto had just finished setting it alight while the night was quickly descending on them. Yep, Naruto is the best, she added, as she saw how much he knew about camping. Troublesome, Shikamaru muttered while a little upset that Naruto was so much better prepared than him or Choji. It was going to take them ages to set up their tent unless Sensei helped them out, as they weren't used to camping, as this was their first time spending the night under the stars. Shikamaru made a mental note to find out where Naruto got his camping supplies once they got back to the city. Don't complain just because my partner can set up a tent in seconds, Ino said, smirking smugly. However, she didn't know that Naruto's tent just unfolded and popped open and all he did was peg it down and his fire pit he had already made and stored in a ceiling scroll. He just didn't feel like mentioning that to them. It was their fault if they never thought to buy their own tents and just go with village-owned crap. Asuma sighed, which got their attention. Okay, since Naruto has made their tent first, I'll take the first watch after I've helped you 2 set up the tent, then, Shikamaru and Choji will take your turn on watch, and last will be Naruto and Ino, okay? Ino yawned and nodded her head while sitting with Naruto as the others moved several meters away to set up their tent. She was surprised that Naruto was doing a good job of making them dinner, which made her feel bad for not doing anything, and she promised to make him dinner sometime after they've gotten home, as a thank you for being so prepared compared to her. It didn't take long for them to eat the sausages and salad with some juice before she got out her bedroll, as Naruto put out the fire. Ino was tired as she followed Naruto into the cramped tent. They removed shoes or sandals before climbing into their sleeping bags and getting comfortable as they lay side by side. Thanks, Naruto, Ino said while smiling, and she was thankful as Naruto turned off their torch lantern as her cheeks lit up slightly with her proximity to Naruto. Hey, it's no problem, Ino, he replied, and she was surprised to feel his hand stroke her cheek in a gentle manner for a brief moment. However, she was more surprised she left him and felt safe as she drifted off to a peaceful slumber with a smile on her lips. Ino, Naruto called gently as he shook her awake by her shoulders gently. She was startled slightly as her hands reached up cutely and held him slightly as she looked up at him blurrily, cheeks pink, and the torch was on, and she looked baffled. He smiled. It's our watch, Ino. I was woken by Shikamaru. He seemed to think if he tried waking you that you might have flayed him. She rubbed her eyes free of sleep with a sheepish smile. I might have, she replied with a small laugh. Well, I guess I've slept long enough, she agreed as he pulled back from hovering over her and she climbed out of her sleeping roll, folding it up, as Naruto did. The two then got the rest of their clothes back on, well footwear, jacket, etc. before climbing out of the tent and past the 2 sleepy genin boys. Naruto makes sure Ino doesn't kill them for having made her have to get up while they put their sleeping rolls away. Come on, Naruto said, leading into a little from camp and walking up a tree, but stopped on the trunk when he saw Ino wasn't following, but just looking at him in embarrassment before he jumped back down with a sigh. You can't do that yet? He asked, and she shook her head. Well, hop on my back and I'll carry you, we'll get the best vantage in the trees, okay? She looked even more embarrassed but nodded anyway and let him help her onto his back where her upai pushed up against him and before she realized they were running up the tree and landed on a high thick branch before he let her down and they both sat up against the trunk side by side, which gave her heart the time to slow down. You know, being a ninja is not what I expected, Ino said after a few moments of silent thought. Naruto laughed a little as he looked at her. if you want to just wander off and get captured I'll be right after you and be your prince, but the truth is while you're waiting for me they'll probably rape and torture you a little, so unless you're into that sort of thing well if you just strip and I'll be as gentle or violent as you want." "Naruto," she complained, looking worried and embarrassed. "I know it's not all candies and roses, but you don't need to be so brutal about it. I know it may not seem like it, but my mother talked about the risks with me before I graduated. Damn, that was embarrassing, and she even suggested that I go out and find a nice boy too, so that I can, you know, give my innocence away, rather than have it stolen like that if I ever was captured by filthy dickheads." Naruto gave a few soft chuckles while she was looking so embarrassed having admitted that to him, and he took her hand holding it. "Hey, not everything is how those morons portray it at the academy," Naruto said with a shrug. "Heroes and damsels in distress. It's because of all these so-called genius ninjas not wanting to learn all of the boring and true stuff that they skip it well, that's what I think anyway. It's either that or the academy teachers should be fired for incompetence. Well they should be anyway for being incompetent morons," but he shrugged. Ino smiled as she leant up against Naruto while holding the arm he held her hand with tight to herself as she snuggled a little to keep warm in the dark cool night, just listening to some hooting owls for a few nice moments. "Yeah, I guess they could use some overhauling of the curriculum and stuff if I really have to think about it now," she answered sheepishly. "You know, I think they should probably teach this tree walking thing to everyone before they graduate from the academy, you know." "Yeah," Naruto agreed impishly. "But you know, Ino, I had never imagined you would feel so comfortable with me," he said smiling and half expecting her to let go and move away, but she didn't. If anything she moved closer if that was possible, and her hand tightened in his. She just looked at him with a very small shrug. "I guess I just realized during the time we've spent together doing missions, well you're a great guy, Naruto, and you're always helpful, which is more than I can say for the other three Naruto-kun." She added the suffix, surprising him as she tested it out and seemed satisfied, so continued. "Naruto-kun, I think deep down I've always known Sasuke was a jerk and that I should look elsewhere, but I was maybe too invested after all the stupid kid stuff and Sakura, but the way she acted earlier, and then you telling me I was acting like a fool through the academy, I just don't want to be like that. It's a waste when Sasuke isn't worth it. Mom always said I shouldn't waste my life because the world is full of so much death and crime that, well, I never really listened until now. I just followed the crowd." Naruto couldn't help but laugh as he pulled his arm from hers and wrapped it around her shoulders, pulling her into him. She smiled and wrapped her arms around his waist and cuddled up to his powerful body, feeling warm, safe, and relaxed. "Thanks for understanding," she said, sounding happy. "Don't think this means much yet, but it does mean I am getting hugs and maybe some kisses if you're lucky, and I want to cuddle like this too. It's nice to feel warm in your arms, thanks, Naruto-kun." Naruto first replied by shocking her as he kissed the top of her head. "I guess that's cool, but you kind of have well, Hinata-chan and Tenten-chan," and he sighed sadly as he realized he had something more than fangirls with 3 different yet amazing girls and wondered how he managed that. However, Naruto was surprised to hear Ino laugh. "Hey, I don't mind, as long as I get to spend time with you two to be honest, I don't mind sharing all that much because it's you, I know you'll be good to me to us. I kind of expected something like that with Sasuke if I ever got with him because of the whole resurrecting that jerk-off clan thing, but now, I really don't want anything more to do with him or his clan. To be honest thinking about it well over the end of this academy year, I was more interested in pissing off Sakura than having him. I guess I just started enjoying making her jealous, even though she really didn't have anything to be jealous of." "Hey, don't," Naruto began, but trailed off as he tensed up and Ino quietened as she noticed. Naruto slid from Ino and stood up looking out over the dark forest of the mountainside below. Ino sat still and quiet as she watched Naruto scanning the environment below. Mountain Lion Naruto spoke quietly as he watched the shadow of the creature stalking closer while Ino carefully stood with him and watched the creature from the safety of the tree. "They're the main reason we have guards unless someone's hunting for us. It's normally a fluke that we might get attacked by other ninja or bandits as the forests are so huge, but other than that, it's just the wild animals hoping for a free scavenge." Ino nodded as she could just make out the animal's shape down below and watched as Naruto threw one kunai and it sliced through the air but surprisingly didn't hit the lion but the ground before it and scared it off as it ran in the opposite direction to camp. "You missed," Ino said after a short while, surprised. Naruto turned to her with a smile. "I didn't want to kill it. It's only an animal, it's only looking for an easy meal, some leftovers. Humans can be idiots and leave their trash, such as deer or whatever else they hunted that they didn't finish, and animals will remember where to get a free meal. The lion most likely wouldn't have eaten one of us, wouldn't be strong enough for one. It may have just sniffed around and left since we cleaned up after ourselves and haven't been hunting, but it could have killed or hurt a normal civilian or weakling ninja if it felt threatened. Humans aren't really its diet. I doubt it has ever tasted human blood before. I had no reason to kill it, and even if I were in a scuffle with it, I don't think I would kill it. It could be a mother with some cubs that would die if I killed her, and that would be a waste. We shouldn't be quick to mess with the natural world when we don't have to. Ino looked at him in surprise. I would have never thought about it like that, she said slowly, as she managed to win her way into his arms, smirking, holding him tight, her cheeks red. I like that you would choose the high road. I don't know what I would have done, but I think I might have hurt it, mainly because I'm a terrible aim with a kunai, but also because I wouldn't think about why it might come so close to us or well, ahead. Asuma-sensei, you pervert. Ino growled out angrily while Naruto pulled his foot back. Asuma chuckled with a smile. Well, at least one of you sensed me, he said with a laugh, but he was looking a little tired. I've been lying awake since my time was up, and you sensed both the mountain lion and me, Naruto. The other two didn't sense me even though I had been watching them for a while, but I knew you were better than Naruto. I could tell you weren't as oblivious while we were walking as the others, but I didn't suspect you were such a ladies' man. Well, someone has to be, Naruto retorted, annoyed. So, this was all a test of our observation skills. Yep, he agreed, smirking. And only you passed. I had been on this tree for a millisecond when you reacted, and while you were so busy too, he added the last, causing Ino to turn a dark red, but Naruto was unaffected. Well, anyway, good job, you just got into a fight with an enemy ninja, and didn't just lose your head. No, you lost yours, Naruto said with a kunai in each hand to Asuma's neck as he stood behind the man, while the Naruto in Ino's arm swished away with a small amount of smoke. The sensei's eyes widened as he felt the blades to his throat. Don't you know interrupting a guy with a beautiful princess is bad luck? I'll remember that from now on, Asuma answered nervously as he actually felt the sharp blades nicking his throat. Damn, I think you won the sneaky student test too, he said as Naruto let him go while smirking. You were fast, and I'm afraid I fell into the trap of underestimation. Just because I'm the does not mean I can't die at the hand of a genin. I hope to remember this and hope even more that you don't tell anyone. Oh, we won't, Asuma-sensei, Ino agreed with a smile that turned nasty. As long as you don't tell anyone either. Deal, he replied sheepishly. Well, I'll get back to my tent. You two wake us at 6 am and we'll continue on our way, he said as he quickly jumped from the tree and went on his way. Ino couldn't help but laugh. I can't believe sensei, she said as Naruto walked back over and wrapped her in his arms smiling. Yeah, well, I got him good, he replied, smirking. I've been working on my substitutions and shadow clone summoning, add the two together, and I'm a magician with the ultimate disappearing and reappearing act. I think I'm going to love your magic, Ino said as she cuddled into Naruto's arms, happy and comfortable. However, Ino screeched out a moment later as Naruto held her tighter and jumped up and back off their branch as it suddenly shattered in a rainstorm of splinters. Naruto landed them on another tree and they looked over in surprise, eyes darting all over, but they couldn't see anything. However, they could both see from the moonlight that huge claw marks were on the tree trunk opposite them. Naruto, what is it, where is it? Ino whispered in his ear, scared while she held onto him tightly. He could actually feel her shaking as she tried to see what attacked them and could shatter such a huge branch like that. Naruto just shook his head. I don't know, but whatever it is, it's big, invisible, on that tree holding on with huge claws and looking at us while emitting tiny growls that rumble from its chest. I think it wants to eat us, he said, staring at the location of the claw marks without blinking or looking away, which made Ino realize it was still there. Then what should we do? Ino shakily asked as she couldn't move her eyes from that spot now either. We have to wake Sensei and the other two. They're already awake and Sensei is in the tree on the other side, Naruto replied without dropping what she could only assume was eye contact with the creature. It won't attack until it senses and opens whatever it is. It isn't just a stupid creature. This one must have waited for us to be distracted before it attacked. I think it has wings because it came from above. Ino actually gulped. I've never heard of invisible creatures before except those little lizard ones, but they're not really completely invisible. Yeah, Naruto agreed as he pulled Ino from him without breaking eye contact and moved her behind him slightly. Ino-chan, I need to move, okay? He asked while she nodded and let go of him as he drew a kunai for each hand. Ino flinched as she now heard the growl, as the creature must have realized that Naruto was going to fight it. It knows we're about to engage. It's such a clever thing, it's kind of fascinating, but I have no choice. Ino watched Naruto with worry as he still stared down the creature with his kunai before he moved. Naruto shot off the branch and Ino watched the monster's tree trunk crack and heard a huge roar. Naruto rolled round as he flew through the air. He stabbed his right kunai at what looked like nothing. Blood splashed from nowhere as the monster roared in pain and Ino saw it. It flickered from thin to invisible and back again. It was a dark blue thing like a pit bull dog, only huge, the size of a horse or cow and without fur like a reptile, and had huge giant black bat-like wings and a huge mouth full of razor-sharp teeth. It had 4 muscular legs with massive claws and dirty gray spikes in twin rows from its massive head down its muscle-full body to end at the tip of its tail, and even spike-like talons on the end of its wings. It was a hideous snarling monster drooling masses of saliva. It has pitch-black pit-like eyes that seem to project anger and hunger. Naruto spun around with it, smashing his second kunai straight into it, more blood spraying with roaring screams, as Naruto hooked onto the beast and was shaken and dragged back with the momentum of the monster. They were coming towards Ino on her branch as Naruto held on. Naruto grabbed its left wing and pulled at it while the monster flickered between there and not, and they veered to the right and crashed into a tree. Asuma appeared while Naruto was kicked off, landing on the opposite tree trunk, standing on the trunk looking up as the monster scratched and clawed, flapping its wings as it tried to stay on the tree in its pain. Asuma-sensei had both of his large trench knives drawn with wind blades, slicing one of the monster's wings off. It screamed while its blood splattered, flickering one last time as it fell from the trunk staying visible as it hit the ground with a huge crash and crunch of bones. The sensei finished off landing on the trunk of the tree, taking a deep breath while the creature cried out. He looked at Naruto as he was getting his bearings. "You, okay, Naruto?" He called out, getting a quick nod as he looked back at the monster as it climbed to its feet growling in anger and pain as it still had 2 kunai in its torso, left by Naruto. It went to move when it totally froze. "Shadow capture, success," Shikamaru said as he came out from behind a tree with Choji. A long shadow came from the boy holding the monster, but it was obvious he was struggling to keep it trapped. Naruto took the chance with a kunai that hit the monster's head, but the attached exploding note caused it to scream as it blew in fiery death, which made Shikamaru fall back as he lost his hold on the more powerful creature, falling to his butt. Asuma went in with wind-blasting trench knives, and the monster's head came off in a gurgle of final death and blood as he landed beside it, panting for breath. They all watched as the blood ignited and they could only stare as the monster melted away into a puddle of goop. Though, that allowed them all to sign a great relief as it was over. "Okay, we're leaving now," Asuma said, taking a few deep breaths. "It's 3:35, he said looking at his watch. "I say we complete our mission and get back home ASAP. I'm sure the Hokage will want to know that some kind of demon attacked us so that he can warn others. Naruto, I'll clear up your stuff and pack it while you get Ino and both continue to keep watch out. Shikamaru, Choji, start in the other tent and I'll help when I'm done, okay?" "Yes, sensei," they all replied as they all went about their jobs. Naruto was almost knocked out of the tree as Ino nearly jumped into his arms, her legs wrapped around his waist as he held her, hands on her tight butt, holding onto her tightly. It was a nice welcome and he could get used to it. "Do you have to keep surprising me like this, Naruto-kun?" Ino demanded with worry. "But seriously, what was that thing?" "I'm not too sure," Naruto answered looking down at the goop. "Some kind of demon I suppose. I've never really thought to read about demons or actual magic or anything like that. Don't worry, as soon as the others are done, we'll be out of here, finish our mission, and home before you know it." "Okay," Ino replied, smiling as he kissed her lips comfortingly. Meanwhile Shikamaru looked to their sensei as he had finished fast and came to help them. He had a curious expression in his eyes. "Sensei, how's Naruto doing these things?" "I saw him and he could see that thing while it was still invisible." Asuma just shook his head. He couldn't see it, but he could sense its presence, hear its breathing, and smell its stench even better than me, but once I was close enough, so could I. Naruto seems to have a better sense of awareness than most. "I see," Shikamaru replied thoughtfully. "I guess there's a lot we don't know about him. I feel kind of bad for not getting to know him properly, and then I wouldn't find his talent surprising." Asuma could only nod in agreement. "He's pretty good with sensing things. This probably makes him better than we would think at Taijutsu. He has talent and potential that we were all too ignorant to see, but no matter what, that hard-working genin will go far in life no matter who tries to stand in his way." Ino was understandably freaked out after the incident with the monster bat dog demon thing, so she was keeping really close to Naruto, holding his right arm and hand, fingers interlocked. They walked in the early morning. It was only about 8 in the morning, and they were looking around for some of the herbs around a large rounded plateau up the side of some cliffs and the beginnings of the Fire Strike Mountains. "There's some," Ino said, as she pointed out the pink plants, and they all rushed over to inspect the pink flowers, but they looked a little crispy and dry around the edges. "They're dying," she said, as she dropped to her knees to look them over. The area they were in was highly lavish with greens and plants of many descriptions and colors, but these plants seemed to be the only ones suffering. It was strange with all of the ravaging life around them, and they wouldn't grow any higher, as it would be too cold. I don't understand why they would be like this, Ino said sadly. They're useless like this, they're too badly damaged, but we could see what the hospital thinks. They still have perfectly usable seeds, but to grow them would take too long, she finished, as she picked a few of the dying flowers and places them securely in a Ziploc bag before putting them in her kunai pouch. I think we should continue looking for some better samples, Asuma replied while looking around. We don't want to just up and leave without looking for less damaged plants. They normally grow in the deserts around oases or desert rivers and lakes, so we're probably lucky to get these, Ino said with a sad look. The only reason they grow here is because it's nice and hot for them and the humidity this time of the year, but it looks like it's been too wet this year. I think that the temperature might have dropped too much for them to survive, she said to Naruto while she walked off with him. Naruto sighed as they walked from the others, looking around in the hope of finding some of the plants in good shape. Though they did find some, they were even worse than what they had already found, so they left them alone, as they weren't worth bothering with. It looks like we're not going to find anything better short of heading into the desert, Naruto said after several moments of looking, as they came to some huge rock formations, not sure where the rest of the team got to. I really don't want to have to go to the desert only to be attacked by some stupid sandworm demon or something. Ino grimaced at the thought. Yeah, I don't think I want that either, Naruto-kun, let's just get out of here, hope sensei will see reason, and let us head home. Maybe we could hire another ninja team, aren't we allies with Suna City, and that's in the desert, get some of them to deliver some. Naruto shrugged with a small grin. We could pick it up from them. I heard they have some huge casinos and 3 massive theme parks. Trust you, Naruto-kun, Ino reprimanded with a small laugh. Though, that does sound more fun than this, but I bet the hospital asked us to come here because they need the herbs as quickly as possible. Naruto pouted while he nodded. Yay, I already thought of that, he replied sadly, while Ino laughed at him. They were about to leave and head back to find the others when they heard a little squeaky whistling sound echoing from the rocks. It startled them, and Ino was careful to keep close to Naruto as he checked it out. They found a large entrance into the rock formation leading into some dark caves, and Ino had to grab Naruto as he was about to crawl in. Naruto-kun, she whispered in reprimand. Don't just go into creepy dark caves. It could be dangerous, and I don't know. It might have an evil demon in there ready to eat us like the last one. Naruto looked at her while rolling his eyes. Don't be silly, Ino-chan. I doubt we'll meet another. I hear running into demons is rare at best, as they tend to keep clear of humans, as we like killing them, he said while she winced, as that was likely true. So, I don't see why we can't investigate. If you're worried, Ino-chan, I'll look after you, or you could stay here. Ino sighed while pouting cutely. Okay, Naruto-kun, I'll come too, she agreed while he smiled brightly and led her into a dark damp hole in the ground before turning on a torch he pulled from his pocket. Looking around the cavern, Ino's eyes widened as they both had to kneel as it was too small to stand. It had drips coming from the rocks and it was quite warm. However, she followed Naruto as he started moving in on all fours, so she tried walking like that too, soon releasing it allowed her to move faster than on her knees and with less pain, and she got to check out his rear, so she was quite happy. Naruto and Ino paused for a moment as they heard the squeaky mew more and louder underground, and Ino couldn't help but feel sorry for whatever creature it was as it sounded like crying. They carried on further, turning bends and tight, down and up and down again and through squeezes that they could just about squeeze through with Naruto's help pulling Ino through after him. Ino knew her clothes were now filthy and a little torn, but she could deal with that as Naruto had just helped her through another tight fit. She couldn't help but feel amazed as at certain points he had actually broken solid rock to help them get through, and though didn't appear to break skin or bruise or anything, looked like he may have strained himself somehow, and though Ino worried, she chose to say nothing as Naruto seemed to just shake it off within a few seconds. What kind of creature is it? Ino asked worriedly instead as she could hear it more the further they got to it. It was such a sad sound that she just hoped whatever it was would be okay once they got to it. Well, she hoped they were traveling to save it. It was like it was calling out and she couldn't help herself but feel the need to protect it. Do you feel it's crying too? Naruto asked after what might have been hours. I feel like it's begging for help, but I don't quite get how. Yeah, Ino replied, worried, as they had to crawl on their tummies. The ceiling was that low and she was feeling a little claustrophobic, and talking was a good way to take her mind off it. I think it's like a young girl, maybe she's in pain and I know we have to rescue her, but why would any creature come down here? We're down, aren't we? He asked, sounding amused. Just hope I don't freak out as I'm having trouble. It's so narrow. I've not been in such confined spaces before. It feels awful, but shit, yeah, look up ahead, it seems to be an opening. I can feel a light breeze and smell some fresher air, no offense, but I could only smell water and us before. Though, I do love your scent. It's nice, strong and appealing. Maybe about 20 meters or so, not much more, he replied, mumbling, as he dragged himself by his fingers with his torch held in his mouth, causing him to drool a lot and mumble his speech. That's quite the way when we're as jammed as we are, but it's an open cavern and from the air seems large and I can smell a large body of water. But Naruto-kun, can I ask you a favor? She asked as she struggled on behind him, only dragging herself with her hands and fingers. Sure, go ahead, Ino-chan, he agreed, too tired and cold to joke about her question to ask a question like he probably would have at other times. Will you help me get stronger? She asked as she tried to ignore the cut slicing her skin from a few sharp stones of the rocks they're squeezing through. Please, I was useless when that demon thing attacked us, and I don't know how to train apart from the training from sensei and my parents, but that isn't anywhere good enough for situations like this or that monster. I think I know I need help, please. Sure, but just keep this a secret, okay? He asked, and she looked up in confusion to see him stop, and looking knew he couldn't move anymore as she felt barely able to herself. She started to panic as she realized they were going to die down in the ground, buried alive. However, she was startled as Naruto roared out in rage, and unbeknownst to her, he forced out Kyuubi's chakra to burn into the rock and had to concentrate hard to keep the energy from flowing backwards and towards Ino. Ino's eyes widened as Naruto's body burst with crimson chakra that caused irrational fear within her, and she was sure she may have peed herself a little. Ino watched in horror as Naruto struggled to move and the ground started shaking. Ino screamed out Naruto's name, trying to get him to calm down, but it just made things worse as he pushed himself up and she could only watch in awe. The rock trapping Naruto was melting under his power, cracking and ripping under his pure might, and then he moved, smashing through the rock on hands and feet, running with a roar so chilling it sent a shiver down Ino's spine before Naruto yelped and disappeared with a splash, leaving Ino confused in the dark and tight tunnel. Ino had no choice but to move forward. She felt the plastic glass of the broken rock as the tunnel opened up from where Naruto had shown her a glimpse of his true power. The rock was surprisingly cool to the touch and smoother than it ever had been. She could breathe easier, but she was now worried about her partner. No matter what kind of terrifying power he had, she didn't care about that. She cared about him though. He was still a nice person and kind and a brilliant kisser, not that she had any experience kissing, she just knew. Ino came to the tunnel exit pretty quick and looked out into a huge cavern which had a soft dim blue glow over it as she looked down into a deep and dark lake below. She couldn't tell where Naruto was as the red chakra had disappeared, so she flopped in with a screech and a splash. Ino was startled as she felt Naruto hold her as she broke up through the surface of the water and could just make out his face in the cold water as he assisted her swimming with ease. Naruto-kun, she said, holding on to him with a big hug. I was so worried, but what happened? What was that power you used? Where did it come from? It actually melted the solid rock. I really didn't want to use it, he said, and she could tell he looked sad. It's more of a last resort, though it was the diluted power of Kyuubi no Yoko. He said, causing her to gasp, but he was surprised she didn't let go. I'm in Kyuubi's prison, and Minato Namika's best hopes he stays dead or I'm kicking his arse. No way, but that means she just didn't know what to say, but he felt it was better to be straight up about where the power came from, so she knew the seriousness. So, that does explain a lot, but maybe we should deal with trying to find shore. Agreed, he answered, as they helped each other swim and crawl up onto shore of the dark cavern where they looked for the source of the blue light. They were soaking wet when they saw some kind of blue sphere floating in the air, with some kind of rose-red colored ferrets floating trapped within it. They couldn't hear the continued pleas from an animal, but they knew it was from it. What's got it? Naruto-kun. Ino was quick to ask in worry. He couldn't help but look at her, surprised. You don't hate me like everyone else? He asked, seeing her in a completely new and brighter light. He was sure Hinata and Tenten would take the news well, but would never have been sure about Ino. I wouldn't hate you for something like that, she answered as she flung herself into his arms. I mean, you were starting to be really cool, but this just pushes you over the top. If anyone has a problem with you, I don't care. If you didn't have the Kyuubi's power we would be dead or dying really slowly. Thanks, Naruto replied, relieved as he accepted her kiss with his own. So, let's find a way to get whatever it is down, he said, looking at it in wonder as he pulled away from Ino and walked towards it before flipping left and then back twice as a huge green vine slapped out of the rocky dirt ground and chased him. He had to move faster just to dodge. Naruto-kun, Ino called before another vine burst out of the ground and almost speared her, but she managed to dodge back, near falling. What's going on? She demanded as she watched in shock as Naruto got captured in another vine as it wrapped around him, trying to squeeze the life out of him. I don't know. Naruto cried out as he tried to tear the vines from him, as Ino could just barely dodge the vine after her when Naruto forced in a deep breath and spat out a huge burning ball of fire. The vines seemed to screech as they withered and dropped him to his hands and knees, breathing deeply as his ribs felt sore and bruised. "Shit," Naruto said as his flames went out and he jumped back and skidded out of the way of the vines, but he had noticed the flash of light and whimper from the creature in the sphere just before the vines attacked. "Ino, I'll take care of the vines, you try to free whatever it is," he called out as he dodged into the path of her vine and surprisingly took its attention as it attacked him too. I think that creature controls the vines, but whatever made that sphere is using its power, so free it and they'll stop. But how? I don't know," Ino cried out as she watched Naruto weave between vines as he charged the sphere only for some huge rose bushes to burst up through the rocks and blocking his path, which caused him to flip backwards and skid out of the way of a rose vine this time, which had some nasty looking thorns. "I don't know, just do something," Naruto cried out as he barely missed losing his life as the vine he avoided shattered rock rather than him. Ino grimaced as she watched Naruto take a hit to his side and somehow managed to grab hold of it and struggled while blocking a vine with his free arm. Ino looked to the rose bushes and charged, hopping out of the way of a new vine, but that jazzed Naruto seconds later as he got in its way while holding one vine in each hand and spitting out continuous small fireballs to keep more at bay. Ino didn't know what she could possibly do, it was a nightmare situation. Ino made it to the bushes and hid into them, cutting up her clothes and flesh, she screamed out as she tried to force herself through. "Please. Damn please. I have to save Naruto-kun. I have to save you." Nothing seemed to do anything for a moment when the vines and bushes burst into leaves, freeing Ino and Naruto from their struggles. Ino fell to the ground painfully as she looked up to see the little creature struggling in the bubble, its bright green eyes open and glowing before the bubble burst. It squeaked as it struggled while it fell towards the ground and Ino pushed herself up, running to catch it. She skidded across the ground and the little red fluffy creature landed in her outstretched arms as she came to a stop, holding it. "SHH, it's okay, girl," Ino said as she cuddled the creature while it squeaked in panic while shaking in fear. "It's okay. It's okay," she said, getting the small and soft thing to calm down to a soft purring as she stroked her soft fur. "You okay?" Naruto asked as he stood over Ino with a bloody face and a huge slash over his chest and arms, slashed through his shirt and blood dripping down his right and left arms. Ino nodded as she stood up with her new purring little friend. "I think so, I just looked down at the creature as it snuggled." "I don't know," she said before looking back up at Naruto and gasping as she looked at the state he was in, completely oblivious to the embers of orange flame he was holding in his cupped hands. "Naruto-kun, are you okay? You're hurt," she said in worry as she looked at him. "We should try to get out of here and get you some bandages and then a doctor." "I'll be okay," Naruto said, looking himself over after a couple of moments of confusion, chuckling. "I heal really fast. The damage to my arms and chest have already clotted and started regenerating. It's a benefit and side effect of being a warden to one of the most powerful beings on the planet, but it means I have to work harder, especially with chakra control, since I have so much chakra." "Oh, okay," she replied, calming down with a few deep breaths as she realized Naruto wasn't as badly hurt as she thought. "Then how do we get out of here? This place is huge and dark." She almost fell over in shock as her little red-furred creature burst into multicolored green sparks and flew up, lighting the cave. She had turned into a bright fairy-like creature with milky white skin. She had large forest green eyes and a tiny little nose and mouth with long pointy ears up the side of her head with the tips a little higher. Her dark red hair was short and ruffled but long on top and an array of messy spikes. The little fairy had dual transparent wings on either side of her back. Her wings were like a bright rainbow of greens with the edges tinted with some red. She was only about 9 or so inches tall and she was wearing a red dress that looked like it was made from rose petals to hide her tiny body. She was glowing with green sparks of multiple different shades of green, lightening the cavern enough that Naruto snuffed out his flames. "Wow," Ino muttered, awed. "I can't believe it. She's so adorable," she said, which surprisingly made the fairy girl's little cheeks blush. "What's your name?" she asked, but the little thing just looked confused. "I know," she added as she looked around at the huge vines. "I'll call you Vine. Do you like that?" she asked and smiled as the little fairy nodded her head valiantly. "Okay, so how do we get out of here?" Naruto asked the little thing. The fairy looked at him and giggled as she flew close to his face and poked his nose before gesturing for them to follow her, so they had little choice if they wanted to get out sometime that day. They followed closely as they needed the fairy for light. Well, Ino needed her for light, as Naruto could see in the dark. The passageways were surprisingly large compared to how they got in, but needed a lot of climbing. However, once they reached a steep wall without any grips to get them up to the next corridor a few hundred meters up, Ino was stuck. However, Naruto smirked. "Okay, so I guess we should start with teaching you how to walk up walls," he said while she grimaced, and her little fairy friend found a place to sit and watch while Naruto made a couple small fires to see better with. "Alright now," Ino asked nervously as she looked at the solid floor. "If I fall it will hurt." Naruto came up behind her and stroked his hands down her sides and around her stomach in a hug. "Don't think too much about it, but remember, walking up a wall is easier than a tree, but it's still about the right amount of chakra in your feet. I'm sure you can get it right really quick." "Oh okay," Ino replied as Naruto stepped back letting her go and he watched her go at it. In the time it actually took her to get to the top, Naruto had to catch her only 3 times or risk her getting brain damage when she landed on her head, but he was quite proud she had gotten so well in just an hour, but she didn't have nearly as much chakra to control. Fine, followed Ino up with Naruto bringing the rear before they carried on their way. "I can smell fresh air," Naruto said after several more minutes of walking when they tuned a few more corners where they finally saw daylight through a fissure in the side of the mountain and they were blinking the bright light from their eyes as they squeezed outside and wished they found that tunnel to get in. "Oh no," Ino said sadly as they had stepped out into a field of dying pink flowers. However, when her little pixie landed on her shoulder, turning back into her cute little ferret form, a radius bomb of green sparkles shot out in all directions around them, and they could only stare with mouths hanging open as it didn't just revive the herbs, but made them grow twice as big. Ino giggled as she petted Vine's head and picked enough of the flowers, a few for her and the rest for the hospital. "You're the best, Vine. I hope Mom and Dad don't mind me bringing you home," she said as she put her pick away, while the little creature looked very happy and pleased with herself. "Ino, you're not supposed to keep nature spirits as pets," Naruto said, but she just gave him a pouty look. Okay, just make sure to keep her true form a secret or you might have to be on constant guard for kidnap attempts, and trust me when I say it will be from the council. Those old bastards only think about themselves, the power they have, and how much more they can get. Don't worry, I won't let them find out," Ino said while rolling her eyes. "Naruto. Ino." They turned to see Asuma and the other 2 staring at them while out of breath as they were almost as filthy, wet, and cut up as Naruto and Ino. "Giant rose vines?" Asuma asked, and they nodded. "They just stopped about an hour ago, so I'll assume that was you too." "Yeah, that was pretty hectic," Ino agreed with a tired sigh. "Oh, what's that?" she asked, looking to see if their sensei was holding some kind of long green whip that switched to red halfway, the tip real thin, and a bright dangerous red. Ino didn't really think about why he was holding it with some sticks and just snatched it off him and looked it over. It was odd and long, feeling like a plant and leather all in one go, if you could believe that. She looked closer to see half a hand in length is a section scale running from thick to thin at the tip with a light green wrapping around the handle, and on the end of the handle was a knot with a closed red rose, elongated in the same material as the whip on a green stem. "Wow, this is pretty neat," Ino said, giving it a test swing, and the other 3 moved back looking terrified as it swished out with a huge crack. "Where'd you get it, sensei?" she asked him as she rolled it up into a manageable state. "It's all yours if you want it," he said nervously. "That thing won't let us touch it." "Huh? It tried strangling us to death," Choji said as he pulled out a bag of crisps from heck knows where and started eating. "Those vine things seemed to be guarding it, and when they stopped and we grabbed it, it attacked us." "Oh," Ino said, looking at Naruto for him to shrug and take it off her. "It doesn't attack Naruto-kun," she said confused as she took it back and gave it to Asuma only to have to struggle to get it back as it went to strangle him again, but when she touched it to him while holding it, it left him alone. "Wow, I guess it doesn't like you guys," Naruto said laughing at them. "Well, maybe we should get out of here and never speak of this dodged up mission again." "Deal," they all said in unison as Naruto led the way down the mountain. "Ino, where did you find that ferret?" Asuma asked while he watched the girl put the whip on her right hip for easy access. "Oh, she followed me home. But we're not home yet," he replied as he looked at it. "And it's riding on your shoulder." "Well, that's what I'm telling Mom and Dad, so shut up." It had thankfully been quite the uneventful trip back to Konoha, where none of Team 10 plus Naruto cared to camp out again, so they hurried back to the city through the night. Though, it was made up for by the odd talk with the Hokage about their mission getting hijacked, but at least Ino offered up the herbs she collected, so the mission wasn't a failure. The Hokage had been pleased with the outcomes and upgraded the mission from C to B after Naruto quickly made up an underground adventure to put what really happened to shame. He didn't want to put the Hokage in a position where he had to lie to the council to protect Vine from them. Ino had been quite surprised initially, but was quick to go into lie mode, which was a speciality for getting out of trouble with her father, and he worked torture and interrogations, so she had grown accustomed to making it look good. Even though she mostly just agreed with Naruto's story, she had to pay attention, so she remembered it. They were then dismissed, leaving the old man and Asuma alone to talk in private. So, do you believe in Naruto's storytelling, or do you think he exaggerated a little? Asuma asked with a raised eyebrow. Come on, we've all embellished the truth here and there, the old man replied smilingly. If we didn't, most of our adventures wouldn't be nearly as fun to tell or listen to. It's more these demons that we should worry about rather than a little over-exaggerating. I've had some other teams either reporting second-hand sightings or seeing them themselves, but you're the only team attacked. I don't think we should start worrying, yet we all know that monsters walk the earth, just they've not been this active in a while since the ninja and countries were established, as they are today. If you see any near any human settlement, I want them exterminated. I've given this order to all my most loyal ninja. I'm trying to keep the council ignorant so they don't spread the knowledge around the city, which could spread out to other towns and cities and start a needless panic. I have already sent out some low-level ninjas. I'm also setting up a team to investigate the matter on the down low. I want you to keep watch out in case. It's probably nothing, maybe a migration, and things just need to settle down, but there's always the possibility of something worse, something big waking up, either forcing them out of their territories or making minions out of them. Yeah, I got it, Asuma replied as he lit a cigarette now the smoking police had left. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. Naruto gave into a quick but searing kiss as he left her at her house before rushing back home to take a shower and get to bed as he was filthy and exhausted. Ino smiled as she turned to go inside when she was startled that the door was open and her brown-haired mother stood in the doorway with a teasing grin in place. So, you finally decided that the Uchiha boy, she said his name with loathing, as she always did, as she didn't like Uchihas, though Ino hadn't asked why, she was now a little curious. Isn't worth your time, she finished before continuing. It seems that you've finally found a nice boy who will treat you the way you deserve. I thought you would hate him more than Sasuke. She asked, looking confused, as she was led into the empty flower shop. You know, her mother asked in shock. Ino just shrugged. He kind of told me. It doesn't matter to me. Heck, he's my hero. He saved my life several times before he told me. Our mission went a little haywire, but I can't tell you why, or even talk about why with people who say they know. It's S-ranked confidential. I understand, she replied teary-eyed as she hugged her daughter. Not even yet and already holding confidential secrets from her mother. Oh Ino, I'm so proud, and then kissing a nice good boy who looks out for you, I couldn't be prouder. She said as she pulled back, wiping her eyes dry. Squeak Vine interrupted startling Ino's mother as she looked at the cute little thing with hearts in her eyes. Ino, it's so cute, but you know your dad says no pets, she cried out as she pulled it into her arms petting it while it purred. Have you named it yet? Yeah, her name is Vine, Ino replied with a grin. She, followed me home, and well don't worry about dad. She has some cool tricks so she can be like like my animal partner. Kibabaka has a dog, so I can have Vine. I don't know dear, what can she possibly Ino's mother trailed off as the ferret jumped out of her arms and landed next to a freshly seeded plant pot when her green eyes lit up and the seed grew before their eyes up into a small bonsai tree, causing Ino's mother's jaw to drop in shock. I see, so she makes plants grow, she muttered before squealing in happiness and hugging the creature more. No mum, Ino said, pulling her new partner away from her. You are not using her to make all of the seeds grow faster, she said, causing her mother to pout. Okay, but that's incredible, she said, shaking her head in awe. But what's with that whip? Are you finally going to branch out into some new arts? Yeah, my whip was with Vine-chan, she agreed, smiling at her mother's crazy antics with a shake of her head. But right now, I stink and haven't slept in about 35 hours. So, I'm going to take a quick shower, wash Vine-chan, and then we'll be going to bed, she said, as she took her partner and headed out of the shop through the back door into the house. Ino's mother watched her daughter go with a smile. It would have been nice to have the little ferret helping things grow around the shop, but Ino did find her, so she was Ino's pet and not hers. She couldn't even have a normal pet because of her husband's allergies to fur. She just hoped he didn't kick up a fuss about adorable little Vine. It was a lovely morning for Naruto as he walked around his apartment with just a towel as he dried off from a lovely cool shower that morning and entered his living room. He had left his change of clothes on his only seat, a comfortable 3-person couch with a lamp on a side table and a coffee table with just a few magazines dumped on it when the doorbell rang. He sighed as it was pretty uncommon for anyone to come to his home. It wasn't like he had much furniture since he was barely in and didn't entertain so he never cared to get anything more. Shaking his head clear, he went to the front door that led out from the lounge after wrapping his fluffy blue towel around his waist. "Ten-chan?" Naruto questioned as he opened the door to see her looking angry with a katana in each hand and both with some blood on the blades and a bruise forming on her right cheek. "I told you I live in a dangerous neighborhood," he said as he stepped aside, letting her in before closing and locking the door. "Fucking filth got away," she hissed out angrily. "I'm afraid I wasn't paying attention when I was walking past and this huge stupid looking bald douch just hit me. I think they shit themselves when I didn't go down and summon these swords from my scroll. They didn't see my headband." "I see, I think I know the fuck you're talking about," Naruto replied, while Tenten suddenly went red-faced as she realized what he was not wearing, her heart pounding painfully in her chest. "He's involved with the local drug peddling arseholes. He's practically the bodyguard for this shrimp little prick whose father owns a brothel." Tenten was surprised as she had never seen Naruto looking so angry before. In fact, she couldn't ever remember seeing him angry. He was always so kind, but this new thing was working for her. The growl that rolled from his chest and off his tongue made her quiver and feel weak in the knees. "Why don't we go and arrest them then?" Tenten suggested after a few moments, admiring Naruto's solid chest and abs and trying to not show she was starring. "If they're criminals and we're Konoha ninja, we can do that, right?" "Unfortunately, not," Naruto replied, shrugging his shoulders. "They're too well connected. If anything, it would get us put in jail. The old man just isn't strong enough to fight against the corruption, as well as protect his ninja from the corrupt using them for their own gains. And we just kill them?" she asked reasonably. Naruto shook his head with a soft chuckle. "No, the criminals deserve worse. They need to be paraded before all to see to show everyone else that we will not tolerate fucks like them. Death is the easy way out." Yeah, that's true," Tenten agreed, feeling humbled to see Naruto so passionate about justice. She was not sure she had met anyone that really did want to help people, except maybe Lee, but Lee was too stupid and by the book to do anything behind the village's back like Naruto would. "Well, anyway, I have some ice in the freezer if you want," Naruto asked with his smile back in place. "Let me get dressed and we can get out of here and find something to do." "I'm fine and I'm good at hanging out here for a while," Tenten said with a sheepish-looking smile as she placed her swords on the coffee table. "I'm actually hiding from my team and yours. They teamed up for some stupid team exercises. Though, I don't think Kakashi really wanted to. He apparently wanted his precious Uchiha to get some experience with other teams or something like that, but I think he really lost a bet with Guy-sensei. I still can't believe I'm getting away with not turning up to meetings," Naruto replied with a laugh as he grabbed his boxers but paused as he saw her watching him, red-checked as she realized he had almost changed in front of her. Tenten then went wide-eyed as Naruto dropped his towel, smirking as she saw it for a few moments before he pulled on his boxers. "Hey, don't stare if you don't want to see," he said laughingly while she was crimson. "You want another look?" "I don't mind at all," he said while she just stuttered at a loss as he continued dressing. "I can't believe you just did that," she suddenly gasped out a few minutes later as he sat to tie his boots, leaving his jacket off. I mean wow, it's no wonder you don't have anything to be embarrassed about." "I don't know," Ino replied in annoyance as she was just getting comfortable and looked slightly annoyed with the interruption. "Maybe if we ignore them, they'll think you're out and go away," she suggested as they heard some more banging. "We know you're in there, Tenten, and you too, Naruto." Sakura yelled angrily from the other side. "Open this door now," she demanded, banging on it loudly. Naruto growled as he tore the door open and glared. "What the fuck do you want, Sakura? If you continue this shit on my front door again, I'll henge into you and declare your undying love for sucking the shit out of Sasuke's arse." Sakura just glared at Naruto while Lee, the bowler-haired boy, looked worried. "Shut up, moron, you wouldn't have the guts. You're supposed to be with our team, not here with this slut." Naruto and Lee both gulped and took steps back away while Sakura continued. "After all, only a slut would ever want a weak and crap dead last like you for a boyfriend like her, Hinata, and now Ino too. It's pathetic." "Dead girl, say what?" Tenten suddenly growled out, which caused Sakura to look at her smugly. "This comes from the girl who throws herself at that duck butt Uchiha and then he doesn't even look weak like you. You really don't have a clue how outclassed you are compared to me." Sakura snorted rudely and even looked like a smuggler. "I'm on Sasuke-kun's team because I'm strong while Naruto gets the honor because he's weak and needs protecting." "Wow, someone's delusional," Tenten retorted with a sneer. "You are probably the weakest kunoichi in all of Konoha and I can admit that Naruto-kun is stronger than me. If he got serious while we spar, I'm afraid I wouldn't last more than a minute if I was lucky. It's because of our spars that I've learned where I need to improve, but you don't have a clue, do you? You don't train and your sensei doesn't care to train you, so just get lost. I'll show you, bitch." Sakura suddenly roared out with a kunai in hand. I'll kick your ass. She stopped suddenly as Tenten had moved under her swing and crashed her right fist into Sakura's empty stomach, causing her to bend over coughing up blood as she dropped her weapon. I don't give a shit about your sick fantasies of grandeur. Tenten growled out. You've got to stop running off at the mouth about shit you don't understand and get lost. If you don't get a clue and stay away from Naruto-kun, they'll be finding pieces of you all over Konoha for years to come. Tenten's right foot then spun up and smashed Sakura back out of the door up against the outside wall. She fell down at whimpering and crying with bloody lips, shaking and scared as her teary green eyes looked up, shaking. Come on, Ten-chan, let's go find somewhere else to hang out and escort this bitch out before she gets stupid again, Naruto said with a smirk while she nodded and grabbed her swords, sealing them away before closing the door behind her. Naruto locked up before turning to Sakura as she was shaking and crying while Lee just stared, unsure what to do. Naruto then surprised them as Sakura screeched as Naruto grabbed one of her feet and started dragging her while she screamed and cried more. Sakura was even trying to kick him with her free foot, but each time she missed. He even dragged her down the stairs, hitting her head every so often. Lee looked like he wanted to stop it, but he just followed, feeling sorry for her no doubt. Tenten was just watching with a grin as the so-called strong girl was getting humiliated and totally defeated by the weak dead last. Naruto didn't let go of Sakura until they were outside his property's gates where she was crying and terrified. Naruto then picked her up and threw her over his left shoulder and she just let him. She didn't try fighting anymore. Sakura was weak and completely defeated. She may have wanted to, but she just couldn't, she just continued sobbing. So, where do you want to go, Ten-chan? Naruto asked her as they were walking off out of the district and toward the shopping district. Naruto was acting as if nothing was out of the ordinary. Tenten smiled at Naruto and tried not to laugh. I don't know, what are you going to do with her? She asked surprised as Sakura just cried harder as she mentioned but still didn't try escaping. I don't know where she lives, he replied thoughtfully. But I suppose we can just take her out of here and dump her in town. He suggested reasonably. Then we can go hang out somewhere and get something to eat. Sounds like a plan to me, or we could just dump her on Lee. Great idea, Naruto agreed as he nearly threw her at the surprised green spandex kid. Lee, don't leave her here, just take her home or something, but a word to the wise. I've met her mother a few times before, so I suggest just dumping her on the doorstep, knocking, and running away. Thanks, Lee, later, dude, he finished as he took Tenten's hand and they disappeared in a swirl of leaves. Lee looked at the pink-haired girl in surprise. He had been crushing over her, but seeing the way she acted in someone else's home, no less put him right off. If he weren't such a nice guy, he might have left her here to her own so-called strong self. However, he was a nice guy, and nice guys didn't leave weak defenseless girls in this district, even this late in the morning. Naruto and Tenten were walking hand in hand as they looked for a place to grab an early lunch or late breakfast when they noticed something weird. Is that rock following us? Tenten asked with a tick on her forehead at how lame that disguise was. Yeah, Naruto replied as they stopped and turned back with a smirk. Hang on Ten-chan, I'm just going to take a piece since nobody's around, he said smilingly as he let her hand go and she tried not to giggle as she had seen the rock move and turn into a piece of the fence they were walking by. Naruto walked up to the fence, undid his zipper and had nearly pulled out when a girl screamed and pulled down the tarpaulin camouflage sheet. The two near 10-year-old boys and a girl had been hiding behind it. The ginger-haired girl was blushing brightly while Naruto laughed with Tenten as he did his zip back up. Who are they? Tenten asked, giggling. Because that was some seriously bad stealth, you should take some lessons from Naruto if you want to sneak around, she said, causing them even more embarrassment. Naruto sighed and rubbed his forehead. This is Konohamaru-chan, the old man's grandson, he said, pointing to the boy with an overly long scarf and goggles on his forehead and mocking the word grandson. And then we have Yuden-chan, he added, pointing to the other boy with glasses and a snotty nose, also sporting some goggles on his forehead. And last, but certainly not least, this is Mogi-chan, he said, pointing to the still blushing ginger-haired girl who had her long full hair tied up in two towers at slight outward angles. She was also wearing some goggles, as they were like their little gang symbol now. Nice to meet you, she said with a smile. I'm Tenten, she introduced herself. Well, aren't you kids cute playing ninja? We're not kids, Konohamaru declared, glaring at her. Who are you to Naruto Nai-sen anyway? Are you his girlfriend or something? You were holding hands, we saw you. He accused teasingly. Possibly, she replied with a smirk causing him and Mogi to pout, but the other boy didn't seem that interested as he wiped his nose on his sleeve. But why were you following us so badly? Did you guys want something? Oh, right, Konohamaru said, as if he had forgotten until now. He turned to Naruto. Ani, play ninja with us? He begged hopefully. I don't have time guys, he said nervously while Tenten looked at him in amusement. Ten-chan and I were going to get something to eat. Please, Naruto Nai-chan. Mogi suddenly asked while pulling on his arm with pouting lips and bubbly eyes. Come and play with us. Tenten-san can come and play too. How can you refuse that, Tenten said with a grin. Come on Naruto-kun, we can grab something to go. It might be fun playing around for a change. Naruto sighed in defeat. Okay, he agreed, which brightened his younger friends. Well, is there a sandwich shop or something near here? I haven't eaten all day, my treat. Yeah, just around the corner is a burger place, Mogi agreed, as she went to lead them on holding Naruto's hand, as she was leading them when a swirl of leaves stopped them, as Kakashi and Guy appeared, the one-eyed sensei glaring right at Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki, for the assault on a teammate. Kakashi was interrupted by Tenten's snort. That's odd because I was the one who beat that weakling up, she said with a glare. Perhaps if she didn't go to my friend's home and start trouble I wouldn't have. She might have even stood a chance when she attacked me if you actually trained her. I am your superior officer. He growled as he stepped forward only for Guy to step in too to stop him with a glare at his rival, while Naruto grinned secretly. Oh, Kakashi-kun. The feminine voice called from behind the man and he spun around to look, his eye near popping out of his head to see three young and supply girls with nice sized busts sopping wet and just wearing skimpy pink towels to hide their assets, just barely. They all had red hair of different shades and green eyes, each girl at different height and size, but it was certain they were sisters and looked both sad, worried, and sexy all at once. Please, Kakashi-kun. The youngest looking called out in a panic. We were bathing together when we thought we heard the door knock, but it seems like it was just some punk kids playing games, and now we got locked out with only our towels to cover our shopping and suds covered bodies. Oh, please Kakashi-kun, can't you please help us? Oh yes, Kakashi-kun. We'll do anything, please. You'll be our hero. We're begging you, Kakashi-kun. Well, which one is your house? He asked just as Guy's nose exploded with blood and he passed out as they were passing through a small suburban area of the city that led into the shopping district. It's this one, Kakashi-kun, the oldest, said with a radiant smile as she pointed to the window of the house they were next to. Look Kakashi-kun, we left the bathroom window open enough, I'm sure you'll be able to get in through there, she said, gesturing to the frosted window. Okay, ladies, just hang on, okay? He said with an eye smile having forgotten about Naruto and Tenten and any punishment he might have thought, wrongfully, they deserved. Yes, Kakashi-kun. They chimed out dreamily with sparkles and hearts in their eyes as he puffed out his chest in glee before jumping up to the window and pulling it open. However, Kakashi wasn't expecting the huge fat bald old woman scrubbing herself in the tub that her fat ripples and giant saggy boobs just didn't fit and the soap suds had all disappeared, leaving nothing for his nightmares to put together. She looked at him as he looked at her, his face going green before. Pervert. Kakashi had never been hit as hard as he went flying from the window, blazing across the sky with a trail of blood and out of sight with a ping of light in the distance, while the others saw the bathing woman's face as she slammed her window closed. The three sisters were in hysterics with Naruto and gave Tenten cheeky winks and air kisses before they wished away with little whips of smoke. Oh, damn. Naruto laughed. That was awesome, what a gullible douche, he continued laughing more with his three little younger friends well, Mogi and Kano. You mean those sisters were shadow clones of you? Tenten asked in awe while he nodded. Heck, Naruto you're dangerous, and that's using tricks. I can't believe he was so easily tricked though. He's or at least supposed to be. Though, I'll admit even I was convinced. It's odd, those girls well, and the whole thing looks so solid. It is, Naruto replied, smirking, as he turned to the giggling academy students, not noticing her look of complete disbelief. So, let's go get some burgers, and then we'll go play, okay? Okay. They replied, as they led the way, and Naruto pulled a thoughtful Tenten along with them, while she wanted to test out whether he could really make transformations that solid. She would have to deal with that later though, as she was a little hungry too. Thanks for watching my video and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic, link is in the description, see you next time, till then sayonara.